Good morning and welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. It is Wednesday, July 20th, 2022. The self-declared racist charged with killing 10 black people in a mass shooting at a Buffalo supermarket earlier this year pleaded not guilty to federal hate crime charges that could be punishable by the death penalty. The shooter was indicted last week on hate crimes and weapons and several weapons counts. The plea was entered in court yesterday by his attorney, who said she hoped to resolve the case before trial. Also, this morning, Sesame Place is apologizing after a mother posted a video on social media that appears to show an employee dressed up as the character Rosita refusing to high five her two young black daughters. The video posted on Instagram has nearly 500,000 views. The mother posted it on Saturday saying she believes the incident was racially motivated. Also, this morning, tomorrow will mark the second primetime public hearing for the January 6th committee, and it's expected to tie a bow around just how guilty of major crimes was former President Donald Trump and how he was the central figure in the deadly insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. We discussed all of that and more with our special guest from Buffalo, Julian Hemsworth, and also James Wright of the Washington Informer and Andrea Carter of the Cincinnati Herald. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
So I want to start, of course, with Jillian. You're down in Buffalo. You live in Buffalo. You're an activist. You're a poet. This self-described, I mean, he called himself a white supremacist, a racist, who pleaded not guilty yesterday for killing 10 black people in at the Tops supermarket. Give us, first of all, some insight as to now today, July 20th. What is going on in Buffalo? What's the feeling in Buffalo? And I understand that the Tops supermarket has reopened. What was that like?
Yeah, so Tops reopened last week. It was surreal. It was a really nuanced feeling because there was a lot of mixed emotions. The last time I was on the show, we talked about how this community was essentially a food desert without that grocery store. We also mentioned how this grocery store is something that the community organized for a couple of years just to get it there. So you had some people who were like, nothing that we fight for should be able to be taken away from us. So I'm glad it reopened. And then you had other people who will never step foot in the grocery store again. I did go visit. I wrote a poem that's featured inside Tops as a memorial wall with a couple waterfalls on the sides. And I just felt heavy. Like, it just felt heavy. Like, what happened there. But I understand why people are happy because this is their only access to food.
Yeah, and also understand access to food, medication, and things of that nature as well.
Yep. So this Tops had a pharmacy inside of it, a bank. It's where people could pay their light and gas bills and other phone bills. So yeah, it really did cut off the community from a lot of the day-to-day resources that people need.
Yeah, and Jillian, obviously, when this happened, there was a great deal of media attention. Folks, civil rights people, descended upon Buffalo. Are you seeing any of that now with the reopening of Tops? Are you seeing that now? Any attention being paid to the plight of those in that neighborhood in Buffalo?
Yes and no. I am definitely seeing some media outlets that are still trying to make sure that they keep this situation at the forefront, understanding that, the media moves fast, they move on fast. So there have been some people that were like, no, we have to make sure we continue to talk about this, but it's not as intense as it was a couple of weeks after the shooting happened. After the shooting happened, there were entire lots on the east side of Buffalo that the media were using, and now that's not necessary because they're not here as much.
Yeah, and we heard all of the problems that the residents there in that particular neighborhood where the Thompsons face every day. We heard vows, I should say, and pledges to make a difference there, to make sure things were different. Are we seeing that same energy from organizations trying to help that community?
Not that I've seen. The organizations that are here in Buffalo, so Open Buffalo, which is the organization I formerly worked for, the Buffalo chapter of the National Urban League, like these organizations have been doing the work and they will continue to do the work. So when they say we're gonna work, we know that they're gonna work. But when we have Kamala Harris coming here saying, I'm supporting Buffalo, of course, where you at? Like we haven't heard anything from her. So yeah, we are going to continue to do the work. But some of the national people who gave us hugs and prayers, we have not heard from since they prayed for us, I guess.
Thoughts and prayers. James,
Right.
let's bring in James Wright and Andrea Carter as well. You both probably have some questions for Jillian regarding Buffalo. So let's start, ladies first, James. So let's start with Andrea Carter of the Cincinnati Herald.
I would say, what is the reaction of the young people to this whole situation? Has their the reactions could go so many different ways. What have they been saying regarding the situation?
Yeah, so I'm very close to that reaction. I'm 29, so they're livid. They were like, we don't want this Tops open, burn it down, build a different store somewhere else. Like, we're tired. We're tired of living in a culture where this kind of violence is being normalized, where we're being conditioned to learn how to handle acts of terror in the moment, as opposed to a government that is working to prevent them from happening in the first place. They're fed up and they're angry, but they're also organizing. So you can be fed up and angry when you're organizing, and they're leading, and we're creating agendas for our Black communities and making sure that what the people perceive to be the most pressing issues are the issues that our local government are also targeting as the most pressing issues. So that anger has definitely become a vehicle for a lot of the younger voices and younger activists in Buffalo.
We are talking with Jillian Hemsworth of Buffalo. She's a poet, an activist. As she stated, she wrote a poem at the reopening of the Top Supermarket. James, I want you to jump in as well. I know you have some thoughts, some questions for Jillian regarding Buffalo.
Good morning, Jillian, and good morning, Stacy and Andrea. It's good to see you this morning. This is a wonderful morning in the District of Columbia. That being said, talk about Mayor Byron Brown and the impact that he has had since this crisis occurred, Jillian.
So, to give some context, Byron Brown has been the mayor for 16, 17 years. Again, I'm 29. So he's been the mayor of majority of my life and my entire life as a voter. I will say Mayor Brown inherited a very, very segregated city that are informed by very racist systems. He inherited that. And he is a Black man who is still navigating the same systems of hate and racism that the normal citizen in Buffalo is navigating. However, there has been no economic progress for Black people under his leadership. So the same questions we have for Joe Biden, what are you going to do, are the questions we have for Byron Brown. It does sometimes seem like the development of Buffalo excludes the east side of Buffalo. And now there's this whole campaign to stop calling it the east side and just call it East Buffalo to make it sound more equitable. And we just feel like if you're going to make it sound equitable, do it with equity. Don't do it with a branding change. Like, we don't care about any of that. We're not going to call it East Buffalo. Move on. Change something. So the fire's on him as well right now, because we are like, what are you gonna do? Our foot is on the gas and we're not taking it off. So he's either going to have to come up with some ways to help develop the east side of Buffalo, or we're gonna have to vote a new mayor into office. So,
Jillian, Peyton Gendron is the white supremacist shooter name, the racist shooter name. And again, he proclaimed himself to be racist. So, but he obviously, as we said, he pleaded not guilty. But both his attorney and the state's attorney has, and the federal government, because he's got federal hate crimes, have said that they don't expect this to go to trial, which means that even though the death penalty is on the table, it just means that they expect a deal to be cut. What are the residents of Buffalo looking for? Will they accept anything less than the death penalty?
No, they won't. I'm letting you know now, they will not. They do want this to go to trial. They want to see this play all the way out. They don't want our state that we're paying taxes to, our government that we're paying taxes to make any concessions when it comes to someone that just came and completely like terrorized our community. Like, I don't think pleas should be offered in hate crimes. We should not make any concessions to racists. That shouldn't even be an option. So I'm definitely hoping that the judge is like, no, I'm not accepting any pleas, because we are not accepting any pleas. Like, absolutely not.
Yeah, some of the people that he killed, 86-year-old Ruth Whitfield, 77-year-old Pearl Young, 72-year-old Catherine Massey, who was one of our own. She wrote for the Buffalo paper there, the NMPA member newspaper there. 67-year-old Haywood Patterson and 65-year-old Celestine Cheney. These are the victims. And Gendron, James, he live streamed that May 14th attack. He planned it. If there was ever a death penalty case based on the law, James, wouldn't this be it? I think we lost your volume, James.
Yeah. And Stacey, I totally agree with you on that. Look, I'm not crazy about the death penalty. I believe that the states should have the death penalty only as an extreme remedy. Now, this is the case where it's an extreme remedy and it should be utilized. You know, as I read more and more about this case, I am just so outraged. This man premeditated this particular crime. He knew what he was doing. He planned it for about 2 weeks. He did his research. He went into the internet and he knew exactly what he wanted to do when he went into that supermarket and killed all those people. And now, you know, you have people in New York and around the country debating, well, should this be a death penalty case? I think it should. I definitely think it should. And I think our lawmakers and the governor of your state, Jillian, as progressive as she is, should back the death penalty for this.
Yeah, and Andrea, as James said, he went on the internet. He specifically targeted this area because in his own alleged manifesto, he recognized that it was predominantly Black, and that's circled on his calendar or whatever, his map, and had every intention. He knew what he set out to do, and he carried it out.
I think it's horrible what he did. It was premeditated. It was planned. How he went and bought his weapons. He had a lot of weapons on him, and he just literally got out of his car and started shooting. And I think we've never seen a mass shooter like this before. I mean, he's even worse than what happened in Boston. I think that anytime that there is a mass shooting like this and they take so many lives, I agree with James, death penalty should be on the table. And they should suffer because they made so many people suffer. And also people are still suffering emotionally. The ramifications of what he did, the shooting, I'm just going to say it was easy, but the ramifications of the shooting are still reverberating within the community, within the nation, until we say, what's the next one? And, you know, when is this going to be put atop? Until someone is put to death, for these shootings, somehow something has to be sent a message just to let folks know who think about doing this, you have to be stopped and you have to pay a certain consequence. That consequence has not happened yet in any mass shooting case. It has not happened yet. No one has been put to death. Now, I'm not a big proponent of the death penalty, but in extreme cases, yeah, I think it should be on the table.
Yeah, and Jillian, before we let you go, by the way, James, Jillian was stuck in your city and got in real late last night or / this morning. So we're gonna let her go shortly. After we just get a final thought from you, Jillian, as any message that the rest of the nation should know coming out of Buffalo. As you stated, you're one of the younger ones there, one of the younger generations, and how you expressed how you guys are feeling. But what's a message you really want to get across this morning to the rest of the nation?
Yeah, I always think it's so important to point out that Buffalo has such a rich culture when it comes to the Black community. Like, we are such a proud community. Even with the reopening of Tops, like, artists made sure that Adinkra symbols that signify, farewell and hospitality, these symbols from Ghana that are so close to our real heritage, are included in the design of the store. So we love our culture. We love each other. We take care of each other here. And we are going to get through this, not only because we don't have an option, but because we understand the importance of making sure that we have a voice when it comes to reimagining what public safety looks like. It's our responsibility to determine what our city is going to look like moving forward. For the kids coming up under us, there are things that we're enduring now that I don't ever want my nephews and my niece and my goddaughter to have to experience. So we're going to do the work. We're going to continue to do the work, even if the media is not shining a light on us and you're not hearing this loud sound coming from Buffalo. We're working and we care about each other, and we won't stop until we know that the community we live in is the one we want to live in.
Yeah, Jillian Hemsworth, we thank you so much for joining Let It Be Known this morning from Buffalo. We will certainly be looking to hear from you again. Thanks so much for joining us. Just a footnote, James and Andrea, Norman Rich writes in that the death penalty does not always result in someone actually being put to death. And we know that in many cases, if they fight it, the death penalty, if it's carried out, you're talking about, in some cases, 20 years down the road. So we'll continue to watch and see what happens there. But also this morning, Sesame Place, James and Andrea, is apologizing after a mother posted a video on social media that appears to show the employee dressed up as the character Rosita refusing to high five her two young Black daughters. In fact, it appeared that she shooed them away, like gave them the hand, talk to the hand type thing. And this wasn't the first time it happened. What's going on, Andrea, with Sesame Place?
I don't know, because I've been to Sesame Place. I got it when I lived on the East Coast. I got a chance to go with a mother and her two kids, and it's a very happy place. It's a place for kids to enjoy, run, scream, shout, see their favorite characters, things like that. You don't expect your favorite character to dish you, and that's what happened here. And unfortunately, that's a young lesson our young people should not learn at that age. Some things should stay happy. Some things should stay pleasant. And I'm just as surprised as you are that this happened at Sesame Place.
Well, as they said, many have been writing it, and also many celebrities, including Kelly Rowland, took Sesame Place to task. The character Rosita, the individual playing character, had claimed that in the case of those two young Black girls from Saturday, she just didn't see them. They were too short or too small. But we saw the video there, James. We saw a video there of Caucasian kids. She's hugging them. They same size.
Yes.
James?
Well, first of all, let me just say that I have never been a fan of Sesame Street or Sesame Place or whatever. I didn't like Captain Kangaroo because I thought that was a silly show, and I didn't like the black man on Captain Kangaroo, Mr. Baxter. I thought he was simple. And then I never really liked Mr. Rogers because I got a problem with a guy who's always wearing the same sweater every time he's on this show. So therefore, I was never really a fan of those shows. But I think this is a shame that those two young sisters were snubbed that way. And then they turned around here and that person turned around here and hugged that the little white girl. So to me, it's very obvious what the message is. So I think Sesame Place owes those two black girls free trips for a year, as well as an apology.
Well,
James,
I'll just have to
he's
say
litigating the case and
Yeah.
he's making a decision too.
I'm not surprised though, because Sesame Place is located in the mountains of Pennsylvania. And so there's not a lot of black people in the mountains of Pennsylvania. If you think about it, it's in the Northeast, where folks go and travel, vacation, things like that. So I'm not surprised, because once you get outside the cities of Pennsylvania, there's certain attitudes. Unfortunately, certain attitudes are in every place that we go. And it's sad that it's in Sesame Place, but at the same time, I'm not surprised it's in Sesame Place. So
Yeah, the mother writes that this disgusting person blatantly told our kids no, then proceeded to hug the little, I'm quoting her, the little white girl next to us. She says, then when I went to complain about it, they looking at me like I'm crazy. I asked the last person who the character was, and I wanted to see a supervisor, and she told me she didn't know. But Sesame Place did acknowledge yesterday that it was aware of the incident, saying in the statement that it's taking actions to do better. We sincerely apologize to the family for their experience in our park on Saturday. We know that it's not okay. We are taking actions to do better. We are committed to making this right. We will conduct, and here we go, training for our employees so they better understand, recognize, and deliver an inclusive, equitable, and entertaining experience to our guests. There's that training again. We talk so much about that, James and Andrea, when we talk about police shootings and things like that. Oh, some training is needed.
well, it's. I think what's interesting is that I grew up on Sesame Street, and even though it has the diversity and equity has always been a part of its lesson, so to speak, even though it wasn't obvious at first, later on it has been with the characters and placement and discussions and things like that. What Sesame Street represents and what Sesame Place represents based on Sesame Street, they should know better.
Yeah,
And that's something that should not even happen in the most happiest place on earth, because what it
that's Disney.
represents to young
Don't
people.
take Disney's title from them. They're the happiest place.
I'm sorry, but I'm just saying in terms of what they teach kids every single day, that should equate to what's happening in Sesame Place.
Right.
And it's a branding issue, but it's also a cultural issue. Those kids are growing up with Sesame Street. So Sesame Place should be representing what Sesame Street is showcasing.
Yeah.
And for that to happen on what has been teaching, I mean, I'm a fan favorite of Sesame Street, and I'm just shocked. I'm just saddened and shocked, but at the same time, not surprised.
Yeah, James, the Thursday tomorrow will mark the second prime time session of the January 6th Select Committee hearings, and it's expected to punctuate an already damaging set of hearings against the former president. Tomorrow, the committee will examine the 187 minutes of inaction by Donald Trump as the riot at the Capitol was occurring. Democratic Rep. Elaine Luria of Virginia, who will be leading Thursday's hearing with GOP Rep. Adam Kinzinger of Illinois, went on television and said the committee will go through pretty much minute by minute of Trump's actions. So, and she said Trump was doing, quote, nothing to actually stop the riot. Tomorrow is supposed to be a big day. Some more folks are testifying that were close to Trump, including Sarah Matthews, James, who once proclaimed her undying loyalty to Trump, but said she was, quote, deeply disturbed by what she saw on January 6th. James, what are you expecting tomorrow night?
Stacey, I believe tomorrow we're going to learn a lot of things about what President Trump did not do on January the 6th and what he did not intend to do. He didn't intend to do anything because he was laughing gleefully looking at the television while all of this was going on, and police officers were being hurt. And these people were throwing things at our police officers who are supposed to protect us, those of us who go on Capitol Hill. We're going to learn about how Donald Trump really manipulated the situation. And you have two people who were very loyal to him, especially the lady that you kind of alluded to. And then they felt they were bamboozled by Donald Trump. But what kind of surprise is that? So let me say this, Stacey, a lot of the Republicans are saying, but nobody's paying attention to these hearings. That is bull crap. They are paying attention to these hearings all over the country. They're paying attention. They're listening. They're taking notes. People are really engaged on this. Donald Trump is really in trouble if what comes out tomorrow, which I think is going to happen.
Well, we saw Pat Cipollone, the former White House counsel, offer some damaging testimony last week. We also, of course, saw others with some seriously damaging testimony, including the testimony of Trump trying to grab the steering wheel of the SUV he was riding in to go to the Capitol. Andrea, some serious stuff have come out. We've discussed this ad nauseum here on this program, but tomorrow should be really the day, and some people say it's going to be the day in which the Attorney General will be forced to act. Merrick Garland will be forced to act after tomorrow.
I think he's going to be forced to act, and I think the silent majority that you're not hearing from is going to make a decision based on what they see. Because, I mean, people are saying people are not paying attention to these hearings. Oh, yes, they are. If you look at the TV audiences, especially in the prime time, they are watching. Even the daytime hearings, they're watching, and then they're looking at it on, as a follow-up, and then when it's repeated. People are watching and hearing and seeing what's going on. And I think that the Republican Party is not listening to what the silent majority is saying. You either step up and do right, or I think they're going to have a rude awakening come the midterm elections. I don't think it's going to be a big one, but I think there's going to be a few surprises because I think people are disgusted. They're tired. They have been a witness to travesty. No one is, even though there are people being taken to court and paying for this, the larger people who planned it have not been touched yet. And those Republicans who saw it, they wanted not a plea bargain, but a protection from Donald Trump. They didn't get it. Their hands have not been spanked yet at all for their actions on what they tried to do. Mm-hmm. So I think people are waiting for someone to be disciplined. And where's that discipline? When is it going to happen? Because I think at the end of the day, that's what everyone is anticipating. When are people who are involved to be disciplined for trying to take over the government, circumvent what has been a standard for decades?
Well, and so, James, Andrea says that the Republicans are, they're just not getting it, or they're not owning up to it. But you know what? Here's the thing with that is that you have, like yesterday, you mentioned the elections in Maryland. Dan Cox won the primary there. Big Trump supporter, a denier of the elections, and certainly he went right along with the lie, that the outright lies about the election fraud. And he won that primary. So Republicans are not really paying any prices for this, apparently, anyway. But here's the question: what, James, will it mean if nothing comes of this? What if Merrick Garland does not pursue criminal charges?
I'm going to answer your question directly. If Merrick Garland does nothing, he will be a do-nothing attorney general. Mm-hmm. I can't see why he wouldn't even, get the president on obstruction of justice in terms of witness tampering. I mean, he could at least get him on that. They got Al Capone on income taxes. He can at least get the president on witness tampering. If Merrick Garland does nothing, he is a do-nothing attorney general, and he needs to step down. And Doug Jones, the former senator from Alabama, needs to be the attorney general.
You know, you said they got Al Capone on tax evasion. Well, guess what? Trump still is the only president never to turn in his income taxes. And here we are. They never got those taxes, and he continues to fight against any documents being released. And you know, it's a product too, isn't it? The fact that he put so many judges on the federal bench. Now you get to see, or at least get some insight as to maybe that's why he did it. That's one of the reasons why he did it. Lots to talk about there. Just a quick note, James, you talked about all the shows that you didn't watch. Well, Norman wants to know, what about the electric company? Did you watch that? And finally, Dr.
Super
Nicole,
Friends. Stacey, I watched the Super Friends.
Oh,
the Super Friends. Oh, okay, there you go. I guess you like Aquaman and stuff like that. Finally, Dr. Nicole McDaniel, going back to the Sesame Place incident, people want to hear that they have a zero tolerance policy and that employees has been let go. Training is not good enough. We're going to continue to stay on top of all this and much more. Thank you so much for watching. Let it be known. We will see you tomorrow.